Have you ever felt invisible? Like no matter how much effort you put into relationships, people still overlook you. You give, you care, you try, yet somehow you always end up being an afterthought. But here's the paradox. The more you chase people's approval, the less they value you. What if the secret to being truly respected wasn't about doing more, but about doing less? What if you could naturally draw people in, without begging for attention, without proving your worth? Too many people fall into the trap of over-giving, over-explaining, and over-investing in those who don't reciprocate. They live in a cycle of seeking validation, waiting for someone else to finally see their worth. But here's the hard truth. People don't value what is freely given. They respect those who set boundaries, walk with confidence, and understand their own worth. Stoicism teaches us a different way. Instead of chasing respect, you learn to embody it. Instead of demanding attention, you cultivate presence. In this video, you'll discover 10 powerful Stoic rules for life, rules that will transform the way others see you, and more importantly, how you see yourself. By the end, you'll understand how to command respect without force, walk away without fear, and live a life where you are naturally valued. We'll begin with the most impactful rule, the one that creates an immediate shift in how people treat you. Then, we'll uncover 9 more Stoic principles that will redefine your relationships, your mindset, and your self-worth. If you're tired of feeling like an option, stay until the end. This might just be the perspective shift you've been looking for. Let's begin. Rule number 1, create the fear of losing you. To be truly valued, you must first create the fear of losing you. People only appreciate what they believe they cannot easily replace. It's human nature. We take for granted what is always available. But the moment we sense we might lose something valuable, we begin to cherish it. This principle applies to relationships, friendships, and even the way others perceive us. Too often, we give our time, our energy, and our attention freely, expecting others to reciprocate. But instead of appreciation, we receive indifference. The reason is simple. When something is easily accessible, it loses its perceived value. People don't fight for what they believe they can always have. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." This is the essence of true inner power. When you are not desperate for anyone's approval, you become someone others naturally want to be around. Instead of chasing people, you let them come to you. Instead of proving your worth, you embody it. The key to this is detachment and self-sufficiency. The more independent you are, mentally, emotionally, and even socially, the more magnetic you become. When you can walk away from anything that does not serve you, you communicate something powerful. You are not an option, you are a priority. Think of the most influential people throughout history. They never begged for attention, they commanded it. Not through force, but through presence. Steve Jobs, for example, was known not just for his genius, but for his ability to make others want to be part of his vision. He didn't plead for respect. He created an aura that made people want to work with him, follow him, and invest in him. The same applies to personal relationships. When you stop over-explaining yourself, when you stop being overly available, when you allow space for people to miss you, they start valuing you more. This doesn't mean playing games. It means setting standards. It means understanding that your presence is a privilege, not something to be taken lightly. A practical way to apply this is to reduce your availability and observe. If you are always the one initiating conversations, take a step back. If you always adjust your schedule for others, Stop. See who actually puts in the effort when you are not the first to reach out. You may be surprised to find that people begin to seek you out more when they realize you are not always within reach. This is not about manipulation, it's about self-respect. When you value your own time, others will learn to value it too. If someone truly cares, they will make an effort. If they don't, you have your answer. Either way, you win, because you are no longer living in the exhausting cycle of chasing validation. The moment you embody this principle, your relationships change. You'll notice that people start treating you with more respect. They listen more when you speak. They put in more effort to be around you. And most importantly, you will feel a deep sense of peace because you are no longer seeking approval from those who don't deserve it. Today, take a small step. Choose one situation where you normally overextend yourself. Instead of seeking validation, pause. Step back. See what happens. You may just realize that the more you value yourself, the more others will too. Rule number 2. Don't reveal everything. Become mysterious. Not everything needs to be said. Not everything needs to be shared. In a world where people overshare their lives, those who hold back become the ones who intrigue others the most. Mystery is power. The less you reveal, the more people want to know. Most people believe that being open and transparent will make them more likable. They think that by sharing every detail about themselves, they will build trust and connection. But the truth is, when you reveal too much too soon, you give away your depth. You become predictable, and predictability breeds indifference. Seneca once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." The same applies to your words and actions. If you lay everything out in the open, people will feel like they already understand you. They won't feel the need to seek you out, to learn more, or to invest in discovering who you truly are. But when you hold back, when you leave some things unsaid, you create an air of curiosity. And curiosity draws people in. Think about the most captivating figures in history. Cleopatra, for example, wasn't just known for her beauty or intelligence. She was known for her ability to create intrigue. She never revealed all her thoughts, never showed all her emotions, and never let anyone feel like they had completely figured her out. That's what made her unforgettable. This applies to personal relationships, social interactions, and even professional settings. The people who are always talking, always explaining, always revealing everything, lose the power of anticipation. But those who speak with intention, who leave space for silence, who choose their words carefully, they command attention effortlessly. In practice, this means resisting the urge to explain yourself too much. When someone asks about your life, share just enough to keep the conversation engaging, but not so much that they no longer need to ask. Instead of telling people your entire plan, let them see it unfold. Instead of revealing every thought, hold some back and let others wonder. This doesn't mean being secretive or distant. It means being intentional. It means letting people earn access to your deeper thoughts and emotions. When someone has to work to understand you, they value you more. When they don't have immediate access to every part of you, they start investing more time and energy in figuring you out. The more you practice this, the more you'll notice a shift. People will listen more closely when you speak. They'll be more interested in what you do. They'll respect you more, simply because they don't feel like they have unlimited access to you. Today, try this. In your next conversation, hold back one piece of information. Instead of explaining everything, let silence do the work. See how the other person reacts. Notice how curiosity naturally builds when you leave things unsaid. Mystery isn't deception, it's wisdom. It's understanding that sometimes the most powerful presence is the one that isn't fully revealed. Rule number 3, prioritize your own needs first. If you don't prioritize your own needs, no one else will. Too often, people put others first, hoping to earn love, respect, or validation. But in doing so, they neglect themselves, sacrificing their own happiness, health, and self-worth for the approval of those who may not even appreciate it. The truth is, when you constantly put yourself last, you teach others to do the same. You show them that your time, your energy, and your well-being are secondary. But when you begin to prioritize yourself, everything changes. People start to respect you. They see your time as valuable. They no longer expect you to always be available, always sacrificing, always giving without receiving. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." Many people go through life serving the needs of others, never stopping to ask, what do I need? What do I want? They pour everything into relationships, friendships, careers, while leaving nothing for themselves. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted, unfulfilled, and underappreciated. Prioritizing yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. Imagine a tree that never absorbs water or sunlight because it keeps giving everything to the plants around it. Eventually, that tree withers and dies, but when it nurtures itself first, it grows strong. It provides more shade, more fruit, more life to everything around it. The same applies to you. In your own life, this may mean saying no more often. It may mean protecting your time, choosing who you invest in, and not feeling guilty for putting yourself first. It may mean taking breaks, stepping away from draining situations, or even walking away from people who don't respect you. The moment you start prioritizing yourself, your life transforms. Stress and anxiety decrease. Confidence rises. People notice the shift, and suddenly they begin treating you differently. Because when you respect yourself, you set the standard for how others should treat you. Start today. Take one decision, just one, that puts your needs first. It could be as simple as saying no to something that drains you, or as powerful as making a choice that aligns with your true desires. Whatever it is, choose yourself. Because if you don't, no one else will. Rule number 4, don't make them the center of your life. The moment you make someone the center of your life, you give away your power. You shift from being the main character in your own story to becoming a supporting role in someone else's. And when that happens, you lose yourself. People often fall into this trap without realizing it. They build their happiness around a relationship, a friendship, or even the approval of others. They start measuring their worth by how much attention they receive, how much someone texts them back, or how much another person validates their existence. But this dependence creates an unbalanced dynamic, one where they need the other person more than the other person needs them. Stoicism teaches a different approach. Your happiness should not depend on anything outside your control. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." When you prioritize your own path, your own growth and your own fulfillment, you naturally become someone others respect and admire. But when you revolve your life around another person, you become predictable, and predictability leads to indifference. History has shown us the power of self-reliance. Take Isaac Newton, for example. He didn't waste his time chasing relationships or seeking constant validation. Instead, he dedicated himself to his work, his discoveries, and his intellectual pursuits. He became legendary not because he sought attention, but because he stayed focused on his own path. The result? He left behind a legacy that changed the world. This doesn't mean you should avoid relationships or stop caring about others. It means that no matter how important someone is to you, they should never be your entire world. You should have your own goals, passions, and identity outside of them. When you maintain your own direction, you create a dynamic where people respect you more because they see that your life doesn't revolve around them. In practical terms, this means setting boundaries. It means not canceling your plans every time someone asks for your time. It means continuing to pursue your goals, your passions, and your self-improvement, regardless of who stays or leaves. When you do this, you become more attractive, more independent, and more at peace. The more you invest in yourself, the less you'll feel the need to chase others. The more you focus on your own purpose, the more naturally people will be drawn to you. This shift is powerful. When you are fulfilled within yourself, you stop worrying about whether someone else is giving you enough attention. You stop seeking validation from outside sources. You realize that your value is not defined by another person's presence in your life. Today, take a moment to reflect. Are you making someone the center of your world? Are you putting your happiness in their hands? If so, it's time to refocus. Find something today, an activity, a goal, a passion that is purely yours. Make space in your life for yourself, not just for others, because the more you build a life that is complete on its own, the more you'll naturally attract the right people into it. Rule number 5, be costly. Let them invest in you. If something is easy to obtain, it is often taken for granted. The same applies to people. When you make yourself too accessible, when you give too much without requiring anything in return, you lower your perceived value. People don't appreciate what comes without effort. They value what they have to invest in life, in relationships, in friendships. Your time, your energy, and your presence should be seen as a privilege, not an entitlement. If you are always available, always the one giving, always the one accommodating others, you teach them that your presence requires no effort. But the moment you set boundaries, the moment you make people work to be part of your life, they begin to see you differently. They begin to respect you more. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." This applies not just to personal growth, but to the way people perceive value. If something is easily given, it is easily ignored. But when people have to put in effort, when they have to invest their time, emotions, and energy, they become more attached. They value what they earn. Consider the difference between a free product and one you've worked hard to obtain. If something is handed to you with no effort, you might enjoy it briefly, but you don't feel the same level of attachment as you would to something you've worked for, saved for, or sacrificed for. This is human nature. People place more importance on what requires investment. This principle is evident in the relationships we admire most. Think about Aristotle and Alexander the Great. Aristotle didn't just give knowledge away freely. He expected effort, discipline, and commitment from his students. And because of that, Alexander saw him not just as a teacher, but as a profound source of wisdom, someone whose insights were worth seeking. Aristotle was not easily replaceable because he ensured that his knowledge was not something to be taken lightly. So how does this apply to you? It means you should not give away your time and energy freely to those who do not respect it. It means you should allow others to invest in you, whether that's through their time, effort, or actions. It means you should not be the only one making sacrifices or adjustments in your relationships. Practically, this means stopping the habit of overextending yourself. If you're always the one making plans, step back and see if others take the initiative. If you're always the one listening and giving support, observe who actually reciprocates. If someone wants to be part of your life, let them show it through their actions, not just through words. This shift in mindset is powerful. It protects your energy. It eliminates one-sided relationships. It ensures that the people in your life truly value your presence. And most importantly, it teaches you to respect yourself. Today, take one simple action. Pause before giving. If someone asks for your time, your help, or your presence, don't immediately say yes. Consider whether they have truly invested in you, whether they truly respect your presence. The more you allow people to invest in you, the more they will value you. Because in life, as in everything else, what is earned is always cherished more than what is given freely. Rule number 6. Stop always starting the conversation. Silence speaks louder than words. In every relationship, whether personal or professional, the balance of effort matters. If you're always the one reaching out, always the one initiating, always the one carrying the weight of communication, you create an unspoken dynamic. They don't have to try because they know you will. People value what they have to work for. When you stop being the one who always starts the conversation, you create space for others to show their investment. If they care, they will reach out. If they don't, you have your answer. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." This means that if someone is showing indifference, don't mirror it with desperation. Instead, step back. Let things unfold naturally. Give others the opportunity to choose you, rather than forcing your presence into their lives. This principle applies beyond just relationships. In life, the more we push for attention, the more it seems to slip away. The more we chase, the more elusive something becomes. But when we become still, when we stop trying so hard, things begin to gravitate toward us naturally. Consider the way powerful leaders conduct themselves. They don't chase conversations. They don't constantly check in to see if people are still interested. Instead, they let their presence speak for itself. When they do engage, their words carry weight because they are not overused. This is a shift in mindset. Instead of feeling anxious when someone doesn't reply, instead of wondering why you're always the one reaching out, see what happens when you stop. When you remove yourself from the cycle of always initiating, you allow the other person to reveal their level of interest. In practice, this means resisting the urge to text first, to call first, to always be the one making plans. If someone values you, they will notice your absence. They will wonder about you. They will reach out. And if they don't, that tells you everything you need to know. At first, this may feel uncomfortable, but over time, you'll realize the power of restraint. You'll begin to feel lighter, more at peace, because you're no longer trying to force something that should be natural. You'll also notice something else. When you are no longer constantly available, people appreciate your presence more. They listen more carefully when you do speak. They engage more when you do reach out. This shift also helps you emotionally. It frees you from attachment to external validation. It allows you to focus on yourself rather than constantly seeking responses from others. And most importantly, it puts you in control of your own energy. Today, take a small step. Hold back from starting a conversation that you normally would. See if the other person notices. See if they reach out first. If they don't take it personally. Just take it as information. Either way, you win. Because by doing less, you gain more. Rule number 7. Create your own happiness. Happiness is not something you find. It is something you create. Too often, people wait for the right person, the right job, or the right moment to bring them happiness. They believe that once they achieve a certain goal, once they are loved by the right person, once life finally aligns in their favor, then they will be happy. But Stoicism teaches us that this is an illusion. True happiness does not come from external circumstances. It comes from within. It is something you cultivate, something you take responsibility for. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This is the key. Your happiness is not in the hands of others. It is in your control, shaped by your perspective, your choices, and your mindset. When you rely on others for happiness, you give away your power. You place your emotional well-being in the hands of circumstances you cannot control. A change in someone's behavior, a missed opportunity, or an unexpected setback suddenly has the power to shake your entire world. But when you take ownership of your happiness, you become unshakable. You learn to find contentment not in what happens to you, but in how you choose to respond. Take Theodore Roosevelt as an example. He faced immense personal tragedy, the loss of his mother and wife on the same day. Instead of allowing this to destroy him, he chose to create his own happiness. He immersed himself in adventure, in public service, in personal growth. He did not wait for life to make him happy. He made himself happy by engaging fully in life. So how can you apply this in your own life? Stop waiting for happiness to come from another person or situation. Stop believing that once you reach a certain milestone, only then will you allow yourself to feel joy. Instead, start finding happiness in small things. Take control of your own emotions. Focus on things that fulfill you, your passions, your values, your personal growth. Build a life where you enjoy your own company, where you do not depend on someone else to feel whole. This shift in mindset is freeing. You no longer feel desperate for validation. You no longer seek happiness in places that are beyond your control. Instead, you build a foundation of contentment that no one can take away. Relationships improve because you are not relying on someone else to make you feel complete. Stress and anxiety decrease because your emotional stability does not depend on external factors. Today, take a moment to reflect. What is one thing you can do right now that brings you joy? Something that does not rely on anyone else. It could be as simple as going for a walk, reading a book, or working on a passion project. Do it. Not because it will lead to something bigger, not because it will impress others, but simply because it brings you joy. Happiness is not something outside of you, it is something you create, and the sooner you realize that, the stronger and freer you become. Rule number 8. Stop being always available. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to you. If you are always available, always responding instantly, always ready to drop everything for someone else, your presence loses its value. People do not appreciate what they can have at any moment. Scarcity creates worth. One of the greatest lessons from Stoicism is that your time and energy are precious. You must protect them. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Many people fear that if they are not always present, if they do not always say yes, they will lose connections. But the truth is the opposite. When you make yourself too accessible, people begin to take you for granted. When you create space, they begin to respect you more. This applies to relationships, friendships, and even in professional settings. Imagine a rare gemstone. If it is available on every street corner, no one sees it as valuable. But if it is difficult to obtain, if it requires effort to reach, it becomes desirable. The same principle applies to how people perceive your presence. If you are always available, your time is no longer special. Throughout history, the most respected figures understood this. They were not constantly at the call of others. They were selective with their time, intentional with their presence. Ada Lovelace, a pioneer in computing, was known not just for her intellect, but for her focus. She was not always reachable. She dedicated herself to meaningful work. And because of that, when she did engage, her words carried weight. So how do you apply this to your own life? Stop responding immediately to every request. Do not always be the first to reach out. Allow others to notice your absence. If someone values you, they will make the effort. And if they don't, you have lost nothing, because your energy is no longer wasted on those who do not truly appreciate it. At first, this may feel uncomfortable. You may feel guilt, as if you are letting others down, but over time, you will notice something remarkable. The people who truly matter will respect your boundaries. They will seek your presence, not because they need something, but because they genuinely value your time. And those who disappear, they were never truly invested in the first place. This shift has profound effects. Stress decreases because you are no longer stretched thin, constantly trying to be everywhere for everyone. Confidence grows because you recognize that your time is worth protecting. And most importantly, you begin to live on your own terms, rather than being at the mercy of others' demands. Today, take one small step. Delay a response. Choose where you invest your time. See how people react when they realize you are not always available. Watch how respect naturally increases when your presence is something that must be earned, rather than something that is given freely. The most valuable things in life are not always within reach, and neither should you be. Rule number 9. Control emotional attachment. Emotional attachment can be a silent trap. When you tie your happiness to another person, to a situation, or to an outcome, you hand over control of your emotions. You become vulnerable to disappointment, rejection, and loss. Not because these things are inherently painful, but because you have allowed them to define your sense of self. Stoicism teaches us that attachment is the root of suffering. The more you depend on something external for your happiness, the more fragile your peace becomes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that the key to emotional stability is not in controlling others, but in mastering your own mind. Many people fall into the habit of over-investing emotionally. They become consumed by relationships, by expectations, by the fear of losing someone or something. They believe that if they care enough, if they hold on tightly, things will stay the way they want them to. But the reality is that nothing lasts forever. Change is inevitable. And when you resist it, when you try to cling to what was instead of accepting what is, you suffer. This doesn't mean you should stop feeling or stop caring. It means you should care wisely. Love without possession. Invest without expectation. Appreciate without attachment. When you do this, you gain freedom. You no longer panic when someone pulls away. You no longer feel devastated when things don't go as planned. Instead, you remain steady, grounded in yourself. Look at the great thinkers of history. The strongest minds, the most admired leaders, were not those who reacted emotionally to every event. They were those who remained composed in the face of uncertainty. They understood that emotions are temporary, and that true strength lies in not being ruled by them. In your own life, this means practicing detachment, not in a cold or distant way, but in a way that protects your inner peace. It means reminding yourself that you do not own people, that situations will come and go, and that your worth is not determined by how others treat you. It means recognizing that you cannot control external events, but you can always control how you respond. One simple way to start is to pause before reacting. When something upsets you, when someone disappoints you, take a deep breath. Step back. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Will this matter in a year? More often than not, you will realize that the intensity of your emotions is temporary, that you do not need to react, that you can choose peace instead. By learning to control emotional attachment, you gain something far greater than fleeting happiness. You gain a deep, unshakable sense of self. You become someone who is centered, resilient, and free. And in that freedom, you will find a kind of peace that no external force can ever take away. Rule number 10. Be willing to walk away. Walking away is not weakness, it is power. The ability to remove yourself from situations that do not serve you, from relationships that drain you, and from people who do not respect you, is one of the greatest strengths you can cultivate. Yet, many people stay out of fear, out of attachment, out of the belief that if they just try a little harder, things will change. Stoicism teaches us that we should never cling to things that compromise our inner peace. Epictetus once said, "If a thing is not good for the hive, it is not good for the bee." If something, whether a job, a relationship, or even a mindset, is damaging you, holding on to it does not make you strong. It makes you a prisoner of your own fear. Many people believe that persistence is the key to success, that walking away means giving up. But there is a difference between perseverance and self-betrayal. Staying in the wrong place out of fear of loss is not loyalty. It is self-sabotage. History proves this. Marcus Aurelius, despite being an emperor, often distanced himself from toxic alliances. He understood that to protect his values, his mission, and his peace, he had to walk away from people who did not align with his principles. He did not chase approval. He did not beg to be included. He made decisions based on what was right, not what was easy. The same applies to you. If a relationship is making you feel small, if a job is consuming your happiness, if a friendship is one-sided, have the courage to leave. This does not mean being reckless. It means recognizing that your well-being is worth more than your fear of losing something that no longer serves you. Practically, this means setting boundaries. It means no longer tolerating disrespect. It means recognizing when effort is no longer being reciprocated and having the discipline to stop chasing. At first, it will feel uncomfortable, but in time, you will realize that walking away does not leave you empty. It clears space for something better. It strengthens your sense of self. It teaches you that you are whole on your own. Today, reflect on one situation where you are holding on too tightly. Ask yourself, am I staying out of strength or out of fear? If the answer is fear, take one step, however small, toward letting go. The moment you stop clinging to what is hurting you, you open yourself to what is meant for you. Walking away is not losing. Walking away is winning your freedom back. Everything we've discussed in this video leads to one simple truth. You are in control of your life. The way others treat you, the respect you command, the peace you experience, it all starts with you. We explored 10 powerful Stoic rules for life that will shift how you approach relationships, emotions, and self-worth. Create the fear of losing you. Stop being the one who always initiates. Become mysterious. Prioritize yourself first. Set boundaries. Be willing to walk away when something no longer serves you. These principles are not about playing games. They are about reclaiming your power and living with dignity. At the heart of Stoicism lies a simple but profound lesson. True strength comes from within. You do not need to chase validation. You do not need to beg for respect. You only need to master yourself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the foundation of all personal growth. Now, it's your turn to apply these lessons. Choose one principle from this video and commit to practicing it today. It could be something small, pausing before reacting emotionally, creating space in a relationship, or simply reminding yourself that your time is valuable. Each small step will build momentum, and before you know it, you will become someone who is respected, valued, and at peace. This journey begins with action. If you found value in this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more insights on Stoicism and self-mastery. Leave a comment below with the rule that resonated with you the most, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Remember this, you are not just an option in someone else's life. You are the author of your own. Choose to live by that truth.